We do have another breaking story that we are following this afternoon, and that is that a voting technology company has filed a lawsuit against Fox, pro-Trump attorneys Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell, and it's alleging a campaign of disinformation that has jeopardized the company's survival. I'm joined now by CNN senior media reporter Oliver Darcy, and for the legal angles here, and there are many, Laura Coates, our legal analyst, is back with us. Oliver, first to you. You know, this is a company that became swept up in conspiracy theories around the 2020 election. What more are you learning?
Yeah, and these are deranged conspiracy theories. So Smartmatic, this voting technology company, has filed a lawsuit, $2.7 billion lawsuit against Fox News, some of its hosts, Lou Dobbs, Maria Bartiromo, Jeanine Pirro, and the pro-Trump attorneys, Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell. And what they're alleging here is that they worked in concert to wage a disinformation campaign against the company, a disinformation campaign that the lawsuit says has really endangered the existence, whether this company can even survive. I talked to the CEO of the company, and he said they really had no choice but to file this lawsuit because he's not sure if they're going to be around in a few years. And he says that this wasn't one tiny error, right? This was a deranged conspiracy theory that was promoted on Fox week after week for a long period of time, a time that they should have known it wasn't true, and that the hosts allowed this to be promoted by people like Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell. I should say that Fox is saying it's going to defend itself. They're calling this a meritless lawsuit. Sidney Powell is dismissing it as well, and we reached out to Rudy Giuliani, but we haven't heard back from him quite yet.
All right, we will certainly await that. Laura, how strong is the case, or is there a case that Smartmatic has here?
Well, there is a case, considering this is the second lawsuit in as many weeks as we've seen, about the same factual predicate, the idea of the disinformation campaign, the idea of how it tarnished reputations, and how there could be a financial cost to these companies in being able to survive if you have this attachment, this scarlet letter that suggests somehow that they are nefarious actors as opposed to conduits of people exercising the right to vote. And so you have here really a challenge that's going to go back to what's similar in the impeachment proceeding, which is the idea of, is the big lie here, or is this an issue where they're going to be able to defend with truth? That's the actual defense to a defamation case. Is there truth here? Is it the same thing as protected speech? Are you able to have a microphone up to these people who are coming on your show? Are you simply the microphone that gives the platform, or are you complicit in some way? When it comes to Giuliani, Sidney Powell, you have the same theme appearing here. You didn't argue these points in court because there was the oath. You knew there'd be consequences if you did so in terms of a court of law, but you chose in the court of public opinion to use your pulpit for this really nefarious way. And there's one point in the lawsuits, 300 pages, and at one point they actually say, the earth is round, 2 + 2 is 4, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris won the election. I mean, that's how rudimentary they are making this case, to talk about how basic it was to know that what they were spewing was inaccurate and it was actually deleterious to their ability to actually thrive as a company. This is really what defamation suits are made of, frankly.
Laura, there are some big names, some of Fox's biggest names who are named in this lawsuit, Maria Bartiromo, as well as Lou Dobbs. And I wonder, because I was speaking with Oliver earlier, there has been, in the case of another one not named in this lawsuit, to my knowledge, Tucker Carlson, another of Fox's big names, that Fox had argued successfully that he couldn't be taken seriously. This was in a slander lawsuit that they were successful in rebuffing. They said he couldn't be taken seriously, that the general tenor of his show should then inform a viewer that Carlson is not stating actual facts about the topics he discusses and is instead engaging in exaggeration and non-literal commentary. That was a quote borrowing some of the argument of Fox. And then the judge went on about her findings, which were that Fox persuasively argues that given Mr. Carlson's reputation, any reasonable viewer arrives with an appropriate amount of skepticism about the statement he makes. I mean, even his employer was saying that he could not be trusted to tell the truth. Is that kind of defense going to fly in the case of these other hosts who traffic these other hosts who are people who trafficked the information that Smartmatic is talking about in this lawsuit?
Well, first of all, look at that vote of confidence about the credibility of one of your own anchors if you are essentially arguing that this person should not be believed when you're marketing yourself as an information resource. But the fact that it actually had to be litigated on that point does not bode well for that argument to be successful in other contexts. If you actually had to have a judicial ruling that would confirm whether you should find a news anchor creditworthy or credible or not, then that already tells you that this is a matter that the reasonable person is not going to be able to perhaps distinguish between truth from fiction, lies from actual alternative facts. And so the very idea here that the average consumer of information who is tuning in believes, I'm sure, that there are guardrails in place, Brianna, where they wouldn't be able to say it if it is not true, or if it did not have some indicia of newsworthiness or reliability, is the very thing that actually could undermine Fox and other anchors' attempts to defend against this action. Because, of course, defamation is about whether or not you have defamed somebody and lessened them in the eyes of the average person. Have they lessened their reputation or harmed them in some way? If you got to go all the way back to whether someone actually believes it in the first place, you are having a very uphill battle ahead of you.